The day seems ordinary enough. Mrs. Deans is told it is a good day for her. She agrees. Feels like a lovely day. It is just after midnight in Chelsea, London. The house on Cadogan Lane is unusually quiet, the kind of silence that feels heavy rather than peaceful. One light remains on in the bathroom. Behind a locked door, one of the most recognizable voices of the 20th century has fallen silent. Judy Garland is 47 years old. To the world, she is still Dorothy, eternally walking toward hope somewhere over the rainbow. But in these final hours, there is no stage and no spotlight. There is only exhaustion, habit, and a body that has been pushed beyond its limits for far too long. What really happened in that bathroom? Was it a sudden and tragic accident, or the unavoidable conclusion of a life shaped by pills, pressure, and performance? Why did help not arrive in time? And who, if anyone, was meant to recognize the warning signs in those final moments? This is not simply the story of a famous death. It is the story of a system that creates a star, demands she shine endlessly, and then looks away when the light finally begins to fade. Tonight, time slows down. Hour by hour, decision by decision, we trace what truly happened in Judy Garland's final moments and why her last night continues to haunt Hollywood more than 50 years later. The news breaks in the early hours of June 22, 1969. At first, it arrives in fragments. Brief radio announcements, rushed phone calls, headlines that feel unreal even as they are read aloud. Judy Garland is dead. Shock quickly turns into disbelief. For decades, the public has watched her struggle, disappear, return, and sing again. She had collapsed before. She had been dismissed before. Somehow, she always came back. This time, she does not. In London, police quietly secure the house on Cadogan Lane. In New York and Los Angeles, newsrooms scramble to confirm the unimaginable. By mid-morning, the story is everywhere. A legend of Hollywood's golden age has died in a foreign city, alone in a bathroom, at an age when many careers begin to slow down, not end. The contrast unsettles the public. Judy Garland represents joy, endurance, and nostalgia. Her voice has accompanied childhoods, heartbreaks, and dreams across generations. Yet the details that emerge are small and clinical. Sleeping pills, a locked door, a husband climbing through a window. Fans instinctively gather outside theaters, record shops, and Frank E. Campbell Funeral Home in Manhattan, where crowds will soon swell into the tens of thousands. People cry openly for someone they never met, as if a piece of their own past has vanished with her. Her daughter, Liza Minnelli, is 23 years old, already famous, already accomplished, but in this moment simply a daughter absorbing a loss that feels intensely private and impossibly public. Years later, she will recall strangers breaking down in front of her, elevator operators unable to hold back tears. Judy Garland's death does not feel like an ordinary celebrity passing. It feels like a cultural wound. Almost immediately, questions surface. The coroner's words are careful and final, describing the death as an accidental overdose. There is no prolonged investigation, no dramatic inquest, no unresolved verdict. Officially, the case closes almost as soon as it opens. But for many, the explanation feels unfinished. Judy Garland's life had long been marked by depression, addiction, and exhaustion. Can her death truly be explained as a simple accident? Or is it the endpoint of something much larger, something that began decades earlier, long before London, long before the locked bathroom door on Cadogan Lane? To understand why Judy Garland's final hours still resonate, we must move backward, not just weeks or months, but to the beginning of a life shaped by discipline, performance, and medication. Long before the world knew her name, Judy Garland's story began in a very different America. She was born Frances Ethel Gumm in 1922 into a family where performing was not an aspiration but an expectation. Before she could read, she could sing. Before she understood applause, she relied on it. Hollywood found her early, far too early. At 15, she was signed by MGM and absorbed into a studio system at the height of its power and cruelty. On screen, she appeared wholesome, radiant, endlessly resilient. Off-screen, she was controlled, monitored, and chemically regulated. Amphetamines were given to keep her thin and alert. Barbiturates were used to force sleep after grueling workdays. This was not hidden or controversial. It was standard. Judy Garland grew up believing this was normal, that her body and mind existed to serve the camera. The irony was brutal. The girl who became famous for embodying hope was never allowed rest. Success arrived swiftly, but the cost accumulated year after year. The triumph of the Wizard of Oz cemented her place in history, but it also trapped her in an image she could never escape. Dorothy was innocent and unbreakable. Judy Garland was neither. As she grew older, pressure intensified. She was eventually fired from MGM after years of missed shoots and health crises. Her suffering was ignored while her reliability was questioned. Publicly, she was labeled difficult. Privately, she was unraveling. Marriages followed one another, 5 in total. Each began with hope for stability and ended under the strain of addiction, insecurity, and relentless demands. Money was always a problem. Despite her fame, financial security rarely followed. Performances became lifelines rather than creative choices. On stage, Judy Garland was electric. Live concerts gave her control, connection, and purpose. But they were also punishing. Night after night, she gave everything, often exhausted, medicated, and barely holding herself together. By the 1960s, her reputation was a contradiction. She was both legend and liability. Every appearance felt like a comeback and a farewell. Looking back, it is clear she did not suddenly collapse. She eroded. Habits formed in adolescence hardened into dependence. Applause sustained her but also trapped her. By the time she reached London in 1969, she was no longer chasing fame. She was chasing survival. Public admiration continued, but privately, the cycles of collapse and recovery grew shorter and harsher. The medication routines that once seemed manageable became dangerous. Depression deepened. Friends described a woman who could be warm and humorous one moment, withdrawn the next. Financial strain persisted. Tabloids reduced complex suffering into spectacle. Yet Judy refused to vanish. Performing was where she felt understood. When she sang, audiences heard honesty and courage, not exhaustion. She gave them everything, even as it cost her dearly. By 1969, hope attached itself to her 5th marriage, to Mickey Deans. She spoke publicly of happiness, of finally feeling loved. The words sounded triumphant, but fragile. Behind the scenes, the same patterns continued. Health issues, insomnia, dependence. The expectation to endure never lifted. London was meant to be a fresh start. Distance from Hollywood. New opportunities. A quieter life. But the cycle did not break. Performances were delayed. Health faltered. Fatigue deepened. There were no dramatic warnings, only quiet depletion. Her final days were ordinary. Conversations about schedules. Attempts at rest. No speeches. No farewells. Just routine. The last 24 hours passed.